I didn't know my wife was in love with another man on the day she married me. If I had known, I swear on everything I am, I would have walked away from that altar without looking back. But lies have a strange way of dressing themselves as love, and I was foolish enough to believe every word she said. My name is Ryan Mitchell, and for 3 years, I thought I was living a dream marriage. A beautiful wife, a stable life, a future that looked safe and predictable. What I didn't realize was that while I was building our life brick by brick, my wife's heart was already somewhere else. And the worst part, she knew it. I met Lena when I was 30. She was soft-spoken, intelligent, and carried sadness in her eyes that made you want to protect her. We met through mutual friends at a small house party. I remember the way she laughed at my jokes, the way she listened like every word I said mattered. I fell hard. She told me she'd been hurt before, that love had failed her, that she wanted stability, honesty, and a man who wouldn't abandon her. I promised her all of that. What she never told me was that someone else already owned her heart. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Looking back now, the signs were there, subtle, easy to ignore if you're in love. She sometimes grew distant for no reason. She guarded her phone like it held state secrets. And once, when I asked about her exes, her face changed just slightly before she said, "They're all in the past." I believed her. The wedding was perfect, at least on the surface. She looked stunning in her white dress, smiling as she walked toward me. When she said, "I do," her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't tremble. Mine did, because I meant every word. The first year of marriage felt peaceful. We weren't wildly passionate, but we were comfortable. Or at least, I thought we were. Lena was affectionate when she wanted to be, distant when she didn't. She blamed stress, work, fatigue. I never questioned it. I didn't want to be that suspicious husband. I wanted to be the man she felt safe with. Then things started changing. She began staying out later, saying she needed space to think. She took weekend trips alone. When I asked where she was going, she'd smile faintly and say, "Just clearing my head." One night, as we lay in bed, I wrapped my arm around her. She gently pushed it away. "Ryan, I'm tired." That word, tired, became her shield. Tired of talking. Tired of intimacy. Tired of questions. But never tired of leaving the house with a carefully chosen outfit and a face full of makeup. Still, I didn't suspect cheating. Not yet. Because I trusted her. Because I loved her. Because I never imagined someone could marry another person while loving someone else entirely. The first crack appeared on a random Tuesday evening. I came home early from work and found Lena sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not a polite smile. Not a forced one. A real one. When she noticed me, her smile vanished instantly. "Who were you talking to?" I asked casually. "No one," she replied too quickly. "Just a friend." Something in my chest tightened, but I brushed it off. Later that night, as she showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the screen lit up, and I saw the name. Ethan. And under it, a message preview that made my stomach drop. "I still think about you every day." My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't open the message. I didn't touch the phone. I just sat there frozen, trying to convince myself there was a logical explanation. But there wasn't. When Lena came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, I looked at her differently for the first time. She noticed. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," I lied, because I wasn't ready to hear the truth yet. Over the next few weeks, my mind replayed that message again and again. I noticed more things. The way she stepped outside to take calls. The way she guarded her phone even in sleep. The way she sometimes whispered someone's name while half asleep. And once, she said it clearly. "Ethan." She corrected herself instantly, pretending she was dreaming. But I wasn't. I finally did what I should have done sooner. One night, after she fell asleep, I unlocked her phone. I wish I hadn't. Their messages went back years. Before our engagement. Before my proposal. Even after our wedding. I wish things were different. I never stopped loving you. I married him because I had to. Those words crushed something inside me. She didn't marry me because she loved me. She married me because I was safe, convenient, stable. I sat there in the dark, holding her phone, staring at the woman sleeping beside me, realizing I had been living a lie. And that was the moment I understood something terrifying. I wasn't her husband. I was her backup plan. As I placed her phone back on the nightstand, one thought burned in my mind. I didn't know yet how this story would end, but I knew one thing for sure. Lena had no idea what she had just started. Conflict begins. After that night, nothing felt real anymore. I woke up beside Lena every morning pretending I hadn't read those messages, pretending I didn't know my wife was emotionally, maybe even physically, entangled with another man. I kissed her cheek before work. I asked about her day. I listened to her complain about things that no longer mattered, all while my chest felt like it was slowly caving in. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how easily she lied, how natural it was for her. She laughed. She smiled. She touched me when it suited her. And I wondered how many of those moments were just performances. I wanted to confront her. God knows I did. But something stopped me. If I confronted her too early, she'd cry, apologize, twist the story, maybe even blame me. I needed the truth, all of it. I needed to know how deep this went, because I refused to be the fool in my own marriage any longer. So I watched. Lena became more careless once she thought I was blind. She left her phone face up. She stepped outside to take calls less often. She started mentioning Ethan casually, pretending he was just an old friend from college. One night at dinner, she said, "Ethan reached out today. He's going through a rough time." My fork paused midair. "Oh? Yes," she said lightly. "He needs someone to talk to." I nodded slowly. "Funny, you never mentioned him before." Her eyes flickered for just a second. I didn't think it mattered. That single sentence told me everything. It mattered enough for her to marry me while loving him. That weekend, she said she was visiting her sister in another city. Normally, I'd help her pack, kiss her goodbye, and wish her a safe trip. This time, I followed her. I told myself I just needed peace of mind, just confirmation. But deep down, I already knew what I'd find. She didn't drive to her sister's place. She drove to a quiet neighborhood across town and parked in front of a small townhouse. I watched from a distance as she stepped out of the car. A man opened the door before she even knocked. "Ethan." He pulled her into a hug that lasted far too long to be innocent. Then he kissed her. Not a friendly kiss, a familiar one. Something inside me shattered. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. I sat there gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Rage, heartbreak, humiliation. Everything slammed into me at once. So this was it. This was the man she loved. When Lena came home the next day, she looked lighter, happier. She kissed me and asked about my weekend like nothing had happened. I smiled back, and in that moment, I decided something that scared even me. If she wanted to live a lie, I'd let her, but I would control how it ended. I started preparing quietly. I gathered evidence, photos, dates, times. I saved messages. I even hired a private investigator, not because I doubted what I saw, but because I wanted undeniable proof. The investigator confirmed it within a week. Lena and Ethan weren't just emotionally involved. They'd been seeing each other for years. Even on our honeymoon, she had messaged him. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't just betrayed. I was used. One night, I asked her softly, "Do you love me?" She hesitated, just for a second, but I noticed. "Of course I do," she said, leaning in to kiss me. That hesitation told me more than any confession could. Meanwhile, Ethan began pushing for more. His messages grew bolder. You wanted her to leave me, to choose him. And she didn't say no. She said, "Not yet." That phrase burned itself into my mind. Not yet. She was waiting for the right moment. Waiting until she felt safe. Waiting until I had served my purpose. But what she didn't know was that I had already seen the ending she was planning, and I was rewriting it. As I watched Lena sleep that night, one cold thought settled in my chest. She thought she was choosing between two men, but soon she'd realize she was the one about to lose everything. Betrayal revealed. The strange thing about knowing the truth is that it doesn't always explode immediately. Sometimes it settles inside you like poison, slow and silent, changing the way you see everything. That's what happened to me. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse her. I didn't even cry in front of Lena. I became quiet, observant, dangerous in a way she didn't understand yet. Because once you realize your entire marriage is built on a lie, you stop reacting emotionally and start thinking strategically. From that moment on, every word Lena after that, something inside me hardened. I stopped seeing her as my wife. I started seeing her as someone who betrayed me. And betrayal changes everything. A few days later, Lena did something careless. Something that revealed just how confident she was that I'd never leave. We were having dinner when she said, "Ethan invited me to a small gathering this weekend. Some old friends." My fork paused. "You're going?" I asked calmly. Yes, she said without hesitation. I already told him I would. Didn't ask. Didn't explain. Didn't even pretend it was innocent. I looked at her and realized something terrifying. She wasn't even trying anymore. Do you think that's appropriate? I asked quietly. She sighed, irritation flashing across her face. Ryan, you're being controlling. That word hit me like a slap. Controlling. For wanting my wife not to spend weekends with a man she loved more than me. I laughed softly. You're right, I said. Whoa. Have fun. She blinked, surprised by my response. And that's when I knew. I had completely disarmed her. That weekend, she didn't even bother lying. She dressed carefully, wore perfume she never wore for me, and kissed my cheek like I was her brother instead of her husband. I'll be back Sunday, she said. I nodded. Drive safe. The door closed behind her, and I sat alone in the silence. That was the night I decided it was time to stop collecting evidence and start setting traps. I contacted Ethan. Yes, I contacted the man my wife loved. I created a fake account. Neutral. Professional. I told him I was interested in collaborating on a project related to his field. He responded quickly, eager, confident, completely unaware. Over time, I steered conversation subtly toward Lena. I let him talk, let him brag. And he did. She's stuck in a marriage she doesn't want, he wrote once. She married him for stability, not love. She's just waiting for the right moment to leave. Reading those words didn't hurt anymore. They confirmed everything. When Lena returned Sunday night, glowing and relaxed, I greeted her with a smile. Good weekend? I asked. She nodded. Yeah. I needed it. I poured her a glass of wine. You deserve happiness. She looked at me strangely, as if something about my tone unsettled her. That night, she slept peacefully. I didn't, because I knew what was coming next. The following week, Lena sat me down. That alone told me something was different. Ryan, she said softly, folding her hands. We need to talk. There it was. The speech she'd probably rehearsed with Ethan 100 times. I leaned back. About what? She took a deep breath. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time. I nodded slowly. Then, I think we rushed into marriage, she continued. I need space. Time to find myself. I looked at her calmly. Is this about Ethan? Her face went pale. What? No, she said too quickly. Why would you say that? I held her gaze. Because I know. Silence swallowed the room. Her mouth opened, then closed. Tears welled up instantly. The performance began. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I was confused. I didn't plan for this to happen. I stood up slowly. But you married me anyway. She cried harder. I thought love would grow. I laughed bitterly. While you were texting him on our honeymoon. She froze. That was the moment the mask fell completely. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I didn't think you'd ever find out. There it was. Not regret. Not remorse. Just fear of being exposed. I took a step closer. So what was the plan, Lena? When were you going to leave? After I bought you that bigger house? She looked away. That answer told me everything. I want a divorce, she said quietly. I want to be honest now. Honest. After years of lies. I nodded. Okay. She looked shocked. That's it. I smiled faintly. You wanted honesty. Here it is. I won't stop you. Relief flooded her face. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. She thought she'd won. She thought she could walk away clean. With dignity. With her reputation intact. With Ethan waiting. She had no idea what I was holding. No idea what I was about to do. As she packed a small bag to stay with a friend, she said softly, I hope someday you'll forgive me. I looked at her one last time. I already have, I said, and she believed me. As Lena walked out believing she was finally free, I stood alone in the doorway knowing one thing. She had no idea that her real punishment hadn't even begun yet. Turning point. When Lena walked out of that house with her overnight bag, she didn't look back. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted her to stay, but because it confirmed something painful. She wasn't leaving with regret. She was leaving with relief, like someone finally stepping into the life they wanted all along. And for a brief moment, I wondered if letting her go so easily made me weak. But then I reminded myself of something important. A trap only works when the victim believes they're free. The first week after she left, Lena barely contacted me. Just short, polite messages about logistics. I'll come for the rest of my things later. We should discuss paperwork soon. No guilt, no hesitation, no grief. Meanwhile, she moved in with Ethan. The investigator confirmed it within days. They didn't even try to hide it. They went out publicly, held hands, laughed, took photos together, and Lena looked happy. That happiness almost made me falter. Almost. But every time doubt crept in, I reread her messages from years back. The lies, the manipulation, the way she used my love as a safety net while giving her heart to another man. And my resolve hardened again. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to play the victim. I was going to let the truth destroy them slowly. I met with my lawyer, Nathan, a quiet man with sharp eyes and a mind that worked 10 steps ahead. I laid everything on the table: messages, photos, timelines, financial records. He listened carefully, then leaned back. You understand, he said calmly, that legally, she's in a very weak position. I nodded. She doesn't know that yet. Nathan gave a thin smile. Would. Because timing will be everything. Lena assumed divorce would be simple, amicable, clean. She assumed I'd be too heartbroken or too ashamed to fight. She underestimated me. 2 weeks later, she came by the house to collect the rest of her belongings. She brought Ethan with her. That was bold. I watched from the doorway as he stood behind her, hand on her back, like he was already claiming territory. Ryan, Lena said carefully, this is Ethan. I nodded politely. I know who he is. Ethan stiffened. Look, man. I raised my hand. No need. You've already said enough. In your messages. His face drained of color. Lena turned sharply. What does that mean? I smiled calmly. Nothing you need to worry about. Not yet. They exchanged uneasy glances. Would. As Lena packed, she moved through the house like a guest, not a wife, and that stung more than I wanted to admit. At one point, she paused in the bedroom. You're being strangely calm, she said. I leaned against the doorframe. I processed the truth before you ever spoke it. She nodded, relieved. I'm glad you're handling this much early. Much early. If only she knew. After she left, I sat alone in the empty house and began the next phase. Exposure. But not recklessly. Not emotionally. Strategically. I didn't post online. I didn't confront friends. I let information flow naturally, quietly. A mutual friend asked why Lena moved out. I found out she'd been in love with someone else for years. I said calmly. No drama. No exaggeration. Just truth. People talk when truth sounds reasonable. Within days, whispers started circulating. Not accusations quite aside. I stopped lying for you. That's all. Silence. You're ruining my life, she said, her voice trembling. I replied softly, no, Lena. I'm just no longer protecting it. That was the moment she understood. She wasn't in control anymore. Ethan began snapping at her, drinking more. Stress seeped into their relationship. The fantasy cracked under pressure. She called again days later. He's not who I thought he was, she said quietly. I closed my eyes. Neither were you. She started crying. I made a mistake. There it was. Not remorse for betraying me. Regret that her dream wasn't perfect. I want to come home, she whispered. Home. The word echoed painfully in my chest. But that home didn't exist anymore. I can't do that, I said calmly. Ryan, please. I loved you, I interrupted. You buried that love years ago. She hung up sobbing. And for the first time I felt peace. But the turning point hadn't fully arrived yet. Because what Lena didn't know was that Nathan had filed something quietly. Something that would change everything. Financial discovery. Years of shared accounts. Property. Investments. Transfers. And buried deep within those records was something devastating. Money Lena had been secretly sending to Ethan. Money from our joint account. Money meant for our future. When Nathan showed me the numbers, my hands trembled. She didn't just cheat, he said calmly. She exploited you. That was the moment anger finally overtook grief. She didn't just love another man. She funded him, protected him, chose him, using my trust. The court date was set. Lena thought it would be routine. She even smiled at me outside the courtroom. I hope we can end this peacefully, she said. I looked at her and thought, you still don't understand. Inside the courtroom, everything changed. Evidence presented. Timelines exposed. Financial betrayal laid bare. Lena's lawyer looked panicked. Ethan wasn't allowed inside. And when the judge looked at Lena, not with sympathy, but with disappointment, I knew the tide had turned. She looked back at me, eyes wide, finally afraid. That was the moment she realized she hadn't just lost a marriage. She had lost protection. As the judge requested a final recess before delivering the ruling, Lena turned to me with tears in her eyes and whispered, Ryan, what are you doing? And I knew that when court resumed, her entire world would collapse in a way she never imagined. Climax plus resolution. When the judge returned to the courtroom, the air felt heavier than before, the kind of silence that presses against your chest and forces you to confront everything you've tried to avoid. Lena sat stiffly beside her lawyer, fingers trembling as she twisted a tissue in her hands. She wouldn't look at me anymore. Not after what she'd just heard. Not after realizing the story she told herself. That I was weak, forgiving, disposable, had been a lie. The judge cleared his throat. After reviewing the evidence presented, he said calmly, this court finds clear proof of marital misconduct, financial misuse, and deliberate deception. Each word landed like a hammer. Lena's breath hitched. Immerse. Mitchell. The judge continued. You entered this marriage under false pretenses, maintained an ongoing emotional and physical relationship outside of it, and diverted shared marital funds without consent. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something, but it was useless now. The damage was done. As a result, the judge said, the court rules in favor of Mr. Mitchell. I didn't react. I just listened. The marital home will remain solely with Mr. Mitchell. All joint assets will be divided in his favor, and spousal support is denied. Denied. That word broke her. Lena let out a small, broken sound, like something inside her finally gave way. Her shoulders collapsed inward as tears spilled freely down her face. This court is adjourned. The judge finished. The gavel struck. And just like that, everything Lena thought she was walking toward vanished. Outside the courtroom, reporters weren't waiting. This wasn't a celebrity case, but the silence felt louder than any crowd. Lena finally turned toward me, her eyes red and desperate. Ryan, she whispered, please. I didn't know it would end like this. I studied her carefully. The woman I once loved. The woman I built my life around. You didn't think it would end at all, I said quietly. She shook her head, crying harder. I just wanted to be happy. I nodded slowly. So did I. She reached for my arm instinctively. I stepped back. Ryan, I have nothing now, she said, her voice breaking. I looked at her steadily. You had everything. You just didn't value it. She watched me walk away, and for the first time since I met her, she didn't follow. Ethan was waiting outside, or rather, hovering. The confident man from the photos was gone. In his place stood someone tense, hollow-eyed, already calculating escape routes. What happened? He asked Lena sharply. She stared at him, stunned. I lost everything. His jaw tightened. You didn't tell me it could get this bad. And there it was. Not concern. Not love. Self-preservation. This is your fault, he snapped. You said he wouldn't fight. Lena laughed weakly, hysterically. You said you'd be there for me. Ethan stepped back. That was when I understood the final truth. Their relationship survived in secrecy. It collapsed in reality. Within weeks, Ethan distanced himself completely. Work pressure. Needing space. Eventually, silence. Lena tried calling him. Messaging him. Showing up unannounced. He blocked her. The man she chose over her husband didn't even choose her when things got hard. I heard all of this secondhand. Mutual friends. Quiet conversations. No gloating. No celebration. Just facts. Meanwhile, my life slowly rebuilt itself. The house felt empty at first, but peaceful. I redecorated. Changed routines. Created space where lies used to live. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I refused to carry someone else's betrayal forever. And slowly, the anger faded. Not into forgiveness, into freedom. Months later, I ran into Lena by accident at a grocery store. She looked different, smaller, worn, like someone who had aged years in a short time. She froze when she saw me. Ryan, she said softly. I nodded politely. Lena. We stood there awkwardly between shelves of canned soup and cereal boxes. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. I never said that properly. I believed she meant it this time. But timing matters. I know, I said gently. She swallowed. I thought marrying you would fix me. I thought stability would make love grow. I met her eyes. Love doesn't grow where honesty doesn't exist. She nodded, tears filling her eyes again. I lost everything. I paused. No. You lost what you were never grateful for. That was the last real conversation we ever had. I walked away without anger, without satisfaction, without regret, because the ending wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. A year later, my life looks nothing like the one I planned. and everything like